Let's make spaghetti and meatballs, but vegan. To get started, let's make some meatballs. For that, we need 3/4 of a cup of TVP, 1 tablespoon of pea protein, 1 teaspoon of beetroot powder, 2 tablespoons of methyl cellulose, 1 tablespoon of nutritional yeast, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of onion powder, 1 teaspoon of oregano, 1 teaspoon of Better Than Bouillon no beef base. This adds a nice beefy, meaty flavor to it. I'm going to estimate a teaspoon, and I'm actually going to put it right into our water. I'll get to that in just a second. I added the teaspoon to 1 cup of hot water, and you see why. I want to dissolve that, so let's just let that dissolve for a moment. 1 tablespoon of white wine vinegar, 1 tablespoon of soy sauce, and let's just mix all that through. Now let's see if our water's ready yet. Conversely, if you don't want to use the beef base, you can actually just use like a veggie broth. And we're just going to pour that right in and mix it all together. It'll look a little soupy at first. Don't worry. This is very similar to my Beyond Burger clone and my meatballs from another video, but this is just a little bit of a different method, a little bit quicker, a little bit more meaty flavor, I think. Okay, once that's all mixed together, just set it aside for about 20 minutes while we make up everything else. While we wait for the meatball mixture to be ready, let's prepare some vegetables. For this, I'm just going to use an onion that I'm just quartering. Really, really simple. I'm going to throw it into my food processor. I like to use the food processor to do this. Makes life so much easier. 5 cloves of garlic. Can you use more? Sure. Can you use less? I wouldn't. 1 carrot. It's been washed, it's been scrubbed, but no, we don't peel them. I do cut this into smaller pieces than the onion. And celery, just cut the ends off like that. So we got 1 rib of celery, 1 carrot, 1 onion, 5 cloves of garlic. Pop on the lid and take that for a spin. And we're just pulsing it. What we're looking for is to just grind up those pieces and make them a little finer, something like that. So it shouldn't be mush. It should still have some texture to it. Okay, now we have our cooktop. If you're doing this at home, I highly suggest just doing it on the stove because the cooktop makes this oh so much harder to do. So I have my cooktop cranked up as hot as it'll go, and I'm using a stainless steel pot. I have our veggie mixture here. I'm just going to get that into the pan. You should hear some sizzle because it's hot. Kind of move it around in the pan. Keep it from sticking. There's plenty of liquid in there, so it won't stick. Notice I did not use any oil. I'm trying to do this without any oil today. Once that starts cooking a little bit, I like to get some tomato paste. Here I am. I'm using Kirkland organic tomato paste. This stuff is pretty low in sodium. 20 milligrams, there's 5 servings. So there's 100 milligrams of sodium in the entire can, which we're using the entire can. So I want to take the top off and flip it over and just punch the bottom out like that. Hold it over the pot. Grab a tool to push with and push the tomato paste right out and into your sauce. Grab that bottom, scrape it off because you want to get all of it. And there you go, tomato paste in. I like to do what's called rust on my tomato paste and my sauce. What that means is get that tomato paste cooking. What it does is it caramelizes some of the sugars, makes for a little bit of a sweeter sauce in the end, gives a nice, rich, deep flavor. And if anybody says it sounds like a lot of tomato paste, it is, but I actually really like that deep, rich tomato paste flavor in my sauces. Okay, so you can see there's a little bit sticking to the bottom. That's what I want. That's what I mean by rust. There's still plenty of liquid here. Nothing is burning. Just takes a few minutes to get this going. While that's happening, I'm going to open up our can of crushed tomatoes. Now, this is a 28-ounce can. I'm only going to use about half of it. This recipe should serve 2, might serve 3. Because, you know, I like spaghetti and meatballs, so I tend to eat a lot of it. I am going to eyeball half a can because there's just no point in measuring at this point. The other half, make pizza. Now I'm going to turn down the heat. I'm putting mine down to 2 out of 5. So that's like medium low. I don't want anything to burn at this point. We have those tomatoes in there. You do not want to burn them. Okay, I just stir that under the heat for a couple of minutes. And then we're going to start adding some of our herbs and spices to this. I have a teaspoon of salt. This happens to be pink Himalayan salt, but any salt will do. Half a teaspoon of cracked black pepper, or as much as you like. 1 tablespoon of thyme, 1 tablespoon of basil, and a half tablespoon of red pepper flake. I think just a little bit of spice is nice in tomato sauce. Steaming up my camera here. Now I just want to get this stirred in. And generally let this cook for maybe 20 minutes to a half an hour. But in the meantime, I do have spaghetti and I do have meatballs to make. So That gives this time to cook. I am going to move it to the stove though, because it's going to be so much easier than cooking it on my cooktop the whole time. Okay, now we're back to our meat mixture. It's been sitting for about 20 to 25 minutes or so. And if yours does not look like it's going to hold together well, as it's sitting, you can add more water, you can add a little more methyl cellulose, you can even add more pea protein, whatever you need to get it to about this consistency. You want it to feel like it's a meat mixture that'll hold together. And I have my air fryer basket ready to go. You can also just bake these if you want to at 350 degrees for about half an hour, maybe 20 minutes to a half an hour. I like the air fryer though. It gives a nice crispy outside and keeps them nice and moist on the inside. So I have a glass of water. Just gonna moisten my hands with some cool water so that they don't stick, and then start shaping my meatballs. And for these, I do kind of a medium size. They're not super big. It's a very soft mixture, so be careful. It's very moist, and just kind of pass it between my hands until they hold together, and put them one by one into my air fryer. Please don't be tempted to make very large meatballs out of this mixture. When you do that, they tend to be a little bit, I don't know, they just get weird. There's no other real way to describe it. This meat mixture is great for texture in small quantities, but once you start going to really, really big things, it gets a little bit too strange in the mouth. I just don't appreciate it. So that's why I try to keep the meatball size kind of small, no bigger than say a ping pong ball or so. I've even done small ones like little tiny polpetti, and they work out really good, really, really great. I mean, think about it. You're going to cut it with your fork anyway before you eat it, right? So why not just make a smaller meatball and have more crust? The water is to keep it from sticking to my hands. It doesn't always. That's why I'm not using it a lot this time. It just doesn't seem to be really sticking all that much. Mixture should make about a dozen meatballs this size. And there's our meatballs. They're going to go into the air fryer for about 12 minutes at 360 degrees. I have here about 160 grams or just about 6 ounces of thin spaghetti. And that's how much I serve when it's just for the two of us. It's a large serving and there's often some left over, which, hey, planned overs are a good thing. And I'm going to start my pasta now. It takes about 7 minutes, and then we can mix that with the sauce and then add our meatballs. Partway through cooking, you definitely want to give your meatballs a bit of a flip. It keeps them consistently cooked on all sides. All right, our pasta is cooked, so now I just want to get it out of the water and into the sauce. Now, I don't like to strain the pasta the way a lot of people do, where you just dump the water down the drain. That, to me, wastes a really, really great ingredient, and that is the pasta water itself. All right, so we have it all in here. Let me just give this a mix. Do not want to over sauce. That's why I didn't use the whole can of tomato sauce. Every time I do that, I end up taking half the sauce and putting it in the fridge for another day, which there's nothing wrong with that either. Okay, see how some of it is covered and some of it's not? I have a secret for you. Grab a ladle, get some of this. Just 1 or 2 scoops is probably all you really need. And mix that through. Just stir it through. The starches in that water will actually help bind everything together. It'll make the sauce stick to the pasta better. It's really amazing stuff. And there we go. Much, much better. Everything is nice and coated. And now we're ready to serve because the meatballs just finished. And here they are. There's our meatballs. I'll set them over here for just a minute. Grab my favorite pasta bowl, move some things around so you guys can see what I'm doing. I like to grab some of that spaghetti and sauce and put that into the bowl. Reach around the sides, get a little extra sauce in there, and then a couple of meatballs. Place them on top. You can put them right into the sauce. There's really no need, but you can if that is the way you prefer to do it. And then on top, got to have some of our homemade shaky cheese. It's kind of a Parmesan replacement. It's basically cashews, a little bit of salt, and some nutritional yeast. We do have a video on that too. There you have it. Spaghetti and meatballs. Now let me take some pretty pictures and make some video for you that you're going to see already in the very beginning of this video. And I'll be back. All that's left now is a taste. So let me cut into this meatball right here so you can see the texture inside. See, they're nice and soft. Let me get some of that spaghetti. Nice chunk of meatball. And there we go. This is good eating. You should make this. Make it now. Make it tonight. And as always, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time on The Bistro.